I'm Joel Burken, Department Chair in Civil Architectural Environmental Engineering and also a Curator's Professor in the department. I've been on campus 23 years and 3 weeks now, and been through a variety of paths. I was a research center director for a few years along the way, standard faculty most of the time, and the past 3 years have been as department chair. And like I say, I am truly struggling with work-life balance now. A number of years ago, as an aspiring assistant professor, really buckling down, putting in a lot of time in the office to get the career on a good path. And it was a good investment. So I got it off on a good path, and I had children a little bit later, and try to manage a real life outside of here. And I do protect my time with my family quite a bit. I really set aside certain periods with them, that 5:30 to 7 o'clock hours. If I'm not absolutely doing something with campus, that's my time to give to them. And to kind of really lock that down, I love coaching. So I've added it up, and I've done something like 23 kid seasons of different sports. Some sports I've never played before, and I show up and I'll help whatever I can. But that lets me kind of be a big part of something that's important to them. And it's a way to get it on the schedule too, so it's more protected. If it's meetings running a little bit long, and I'd say, hey, I got a bunch of kids that are going to be standing outside of a freezing gym if I don't go open the door. It kind of gives a little more credibility that I got to get out of here and do that, and really look for the time where I can also merge some of those things. So my kids know what my job is, they know the place around here. If I got to get a little bit of something done and pick my son up from school, he's going to be here, and it's not like I make him hang out in the office the whole time, but it lets me just kind of get to him a little bit quicker right afterwards and things like that. And there's a little bit of a balance, but it's also a merger of trying to utilize the time you have as much as you can and make the most of it. And then I'd say I'm struggling right now. I just cannot find the time to do all the things I want to do. And I'm learning how to kind of push things off the plate, even say no once in a great while, and to really prioritize what's important to my people and to my family. So I'll pass it on.
I'm Theresa Swift. I'm an associate teaching professor, non-tenure track, in electrical engineering. I've been on campus since 1991. I came here as a graduate, so I've been here for a long time. I started in math as a graduate student, and then I lectured there for about 5 years, and then I came into DeWitt in 2009. So I guess I'm kind of addressing the balance issue as well. The way I used to run my class and with my students is I was on campus from 8 to 4:30. My door was open, they were welcome to come in at any time, and they really didn't utilize the time. I might have 1 or 2 students that would come in and utilize the time, and I felt like I was kind of wasting time away from my family. I had 2 kids at the time, And then in 2014, my mom had a severe heart attack and spent 5 months in the hospital, so I needed round-the-clock care. So I had to rearrange everything that I was doing. So I couldn't be on campus from 8 to 4:30 and not get anything done. I really did not feel like I was getting anything done being here. So I actually switched to dealing with a lot of stuff online. I started accessing Canvas to a lot higher extent. I started setting, okay, these are the hours I'm going to be there. And now I have 8 people crammed into my office at one time, even though I'm not, I've still got 9 hours of lecture or office hours a week. They're still coming in, but they're utilizing that time. I don't feel like I'm wasting my time anymore. I started accessing and utilizing the LEAD program, trying to find all these different things that campus has that I can kind of get my time more useful than what I was doing. Me sitting in my office waiting for my students to come to me was not working. So, and I have found a place where I can work, because as I told my students, I cannot write a test while there's 8 of you in my office. So my place is the kitchen table. I I sit down at my kitchen table. I answer email until 10, 11 o'clock at night. They feel like they're connected. It also gave me a connection to my kids because, yeah, I'm working, but I'm at the kitchen table. So if it's mom, I need, I can take a few seconds to go do mom, I need. So they kind of got an illusion, and apparently it worked because my oldest just went into the workforce a year ago and says, I don't feel like I have any time. You seem like you have all this time. And I'm like, it's an illusion, dear. It really is. But it worked. So they got that feeling of connection. So my suggestion is to look to see what is available on campus to help you.
I actually had a very similar experience as you. I'm Petra DeWitt. I'm with the history department. I'm also a graduate from this university. I came here in fall of 2003, started out as an adjunct, then became a lecturer, then became a non-teaching, non-tenure track teaching professor, and I'm finally, hopefully, getting tenure.
She will.
Okay, so I've come from the bottom and I've worked myself up. Initially, I didn't have problems. I actually volunteered, teaching actually 5 classes per semester, because it felt like I had all the time in the world until my husband got sick. He had Parkinson's, and it was progressing pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, I'm finding myself in a very similar situation. I have to hire home health care for him. I have to balance medical schedules because he had to go to this doctor and this doctor. And it started interfering with my job. And that's when I learned about blending courses. What? Teaching them only twice a week instead of 3 times a week? There's a Friday that all of a sudden got opened up, okay? So, and it's, back then it was still called EdTech, before it became Cafe, and the people were absolutely fantastic in allowing me to set 2 courses into blended format. Made a huge difference in time management and time I was able to spend with my ailing husband, and just getting away from it all for just a few extra hours instead of having all that stress on top of you. So that was one of my ways of carving out a little extra time.
My name is Ahmad. I'm a Curator's Distinguished Teaching Professor. I teach in the Department of History and Political Science. This is my 20th year, so May will be the magic 20. My specialty is, I'm going to go by my list. She said the dualist, so my field is 19th century American West, basically manifest destiny and its different views. So I do everything from drugs and sex with smoking opium to warm and fuzzy, the animals on the overland trails. That's not my doing the drugs and sex, that's the 19th century. But otherwise, in terms of it, I got my PhD by chance in 1990, well not by chance, but Missouri by chance. In 1997, I had taught for the University of Maryland's Asian Division for almost 9 years. So I've lived all over the world in various different capacities. I didn't get my PhD till I was 47. It's something I've wanted since I'm 6, but that's beside the point. I taught in SUNY Potsdam as a visiting professor right out of PhD land, and then I was down at a creepy school in Texas for a year. In terms of challenges, I think for myself, I don't have the same issues they've got in any way, shape, or form. I have one that's taken the opposite side. Be good. All right, so in any case, I have no dog, no cat, no kids, no husband. All right? So I get a different side of it. All right? I get a different side, but we'll get to that in a second. In terms of things, for my 8.5 years, 9 years teaching with the University of Maryland, I've also taught 6 classes here, and 5 and 6 at different times. But I used to teach on a U.S. military base called Camp Pelham. We don't have troops up there anymore. It's literally right on the Korean DMZ. North Koreans in my backyard one night. I was the only non-prostitute in town. In terms of it, the U.S. base there had 800 men and me. All right? So when I got hired to teach here, I'm going, hot dog. All right, it's mostly men. I was the 14th woman hired. Now I sent out emails of which I've gotten no response from any other females here. All right, in terms of coming to support the lady miners, which I will make in a comment later. All right, so on an all-male situation, a lot of people find it very difficult here. I find it phenomenal. I mean, I'm just tickled to death that there was, I knew how to deal with the guys. on many different levels, from young 18-year-olds to colonels and so forth, executive officers and the whole thing. As a single female with no dog, no cat, no kids, no husband, I'm often asked by those who have kids and those who have other situations to do things. So, and the quote was, "Oh, Diana, you're not married. You have time on your hands. You do it." To which my response was, and I had two responses, I can only remember one of them. Another professor on campus who's not here, I thought she was going to die of laughter. She was laughing so hard. My response was, "Yeah, that's right, I go home to a cold, empty bed. I forgot." All right, so the idea was that I would have to do things like, one of them was arrange time because I have time. And the other one was, are you familiar, I think it's once a year, they have 7th and 8th grade girls, they meet at the center. And I got 3 phone calls from the office. "Dr. Ahmad, can you do this?" "No, no, thank you very much." Second time, I said it again. Third time was a little more to the point. I said, "How many times have I got to say no?" All right. And she said, "But you're not married." Okay. So anyway, with that, so it's kind of the opposite of this situation. In terms of balancing life, I love my job. I don't even regard my job as working. I really don't. All right, so I don't mind it. So again, what does come in there? How do you balance it out and all of that? I'm here 7 days a week. If students want to talk to me about whatever it is, I let them. And some days you do have nobody in your office, so you can get all kinds of stuff done. All right, so it's there. In terms of other things, I broaden it out. I go to the Lady Miners, or I go to all the Miners games. All right, almost all of them. And I did send out to female faculty listserv to try and get women faculty to come to the Lady Miners, because the girls do, the young women, do look for their professors in the audience. They really and truly do. And so I actually got Mark Mullen, the athletic director, to give free tickets to female faculty and their families.
I have my free ticket.
Yes, yes she does. All right, she's got it. All right, but in terms of it, I called up Marcy Scott, who keeps the FemFac listserv, and she said there's 117 people on that list. I got 13 responses. Okay? And there's another one who's coming, so that's good. All right, so with it, but that's a way to do the work-life balance, because it means a lot. When you go up for tenure, for instance, does Petra ever do anything on campus? Petra's in many places on campus, right? So that's not an issue. But even going to a game, it's amazing how many people you meet. The chancellor comes and chats, not the new guy, but all of the other chancellors have been there. They come and chat with you. You meet older faculty at these games. They can tell you stuff. You can make friends. You can make connections with, "Oh, did you talk to blah blah in the other department?" So there's a lot of things to do at these games. So it's there. So there was another group a few years ago. I'm not a member of it anymore because Survivor was at the same time, so I had to watch Survivor. And I don't have that thing where you can record it, so I don't have that. But anyway, it's a knitting and stitching group. I'm not even sure it's still around. But in any case, that was all professors, all female professors. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure guys were welcome, but nobody ever asked, so it wasn't an issue. But anyway, in terms of it, for fun things, I do things like I'm on the board of directors as vice president for the Rolla Public Library Board. In addition, my professor, my PhD professor, who's also her PhD professor, called me and asked me if I would be on the Missouri Parks Association, so I'm on the board of directors for that. So with it, it's a big thing. So for me, I don't have to take care of the kids, but I have to deal in a different way with the burden of people who do have kids. Because it does, "Well, Diana, you do it." Well, I'll do some of it, but it's all in there. But I enjoy my job. Yesterday, for instance, I was doing my research, and my research desk faces the window. So everybody who passes between HSS and Comp Sci, the kids who know I'm there, they always wave. They always wave. And it's always fun, because you do this. There's a link between myself and the student. So that's mine. Your turn.
Okay, now I have a situation. My son I have a missing call. My son saying, "Mom, no club today." My husband is out of town, who is also a faculty. So I'm So I'm going to do my introductions and see if my husband can pick him up. Yeah. Bih-Ru, I'm an associate professor currently in business and information technologies. I joined S&T in 2003 as an assistant professor with a 2 years old. In a time, the department is just got established. In a time, the college just got formatted. And so we have new program, new chair, or everyone in our department is new. And I have my second child in 2005. I got my tenure in 2008, and then I was asked to take charge of Center for Enterprise Resource Planning and the whole Enterprise Resource Planning program. And I teach, typically in our departments, we teach 4 different preps in 1 year. So 2 classes each semester, 2 different preps. And so as many of you, I also a parent, a spouse, a daughter-in-law with family side, and everyone has 24 hours, same as I. So I have to wear so many different hats as a faculty whose priority should be for tenure track is publish or perish. For a faculty in a new department, we have to carry out extremely high services. And to be a new parent, when I go over the tenures, I need to, like Joe, do a lot of things. I remember I was breastfeeding while making up an exam. So that's things we all went through. To me, there was a question struck me a lot, the question submitted. Is the goal really a balance? And to me, it is. To be a faculty, to be a researcher, to be a mom, to be a wife, to be a daughter, I cannot excel and be the best in every single category. When I make the choice, which one I should spend more time, I always look at which one will affect most people and which one I will make more higher impact in people's life. And as you can see, it all goes down in the opposite of tenure track faculties. Those ones who have those activities, tasks, they have bigger impact, affect more people, ask more services, teaching oriented. But that's always my priority. So a lot of people, my good friends always tell me, as a tenure track faculty, I put my time in the wrong bucket to advance. But to me, it's balanced. After I retired, if I can retire from here, I have no regrets. Every student, I treat them as my own children. Every colleague, I treat them as the way I hope to be treated. And every company I work with, I give them my best. I'm not the top in every category, but I'm the average one. At least that's what I'm looking for. So to me, it's not to, if I can accept the fact, I don't have to be the best in every category. I can be fine. I can be happy. And when it's so stressed out, when I'm so stressed out, university does have a very good benefit. We have sabbaticals. I took 2 sabbaticals, one in 2009 and one last semester. Those are the time I feel I cannot go up anymore. And I took sabbatical. During sabbatical, I work harder than ever. My last sabbatical, I woke up 4 o'clock, get ready to leave the apartment at 5:30, be at work 6:30. I could not get home until about 7 o'clock. It's 1 hour drive each way. But I'm happy because it's different environment. I look at things differently. So that's from my perspective, and a little bit different aspect than you provide.
That is wonderful. Do you see how different and yet how the same the stories are? You know, since we have such a small audience, let's go around the room and introduce yourselves, please. Do we really need that balance? I mean, is this something that we can achieve or not, or should we try to achieve it? So that was the one of the questions. Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm a part of this panel as well. And I would like to tell you about a very specific and unique challenge that more and more faculty members on this campus are experiencing. Are any of you commuting to Rolla? Or are you stationary here in Rolla? Tyler?
Yeah.
From St. Louis? Right. Well, I commute on a weekly basis from Bloomington, Illinois, which is about 4.5 hours away. So the reason I do this is because when my son was very little, he was born here in Raleigh, and I still live here, but for medical reasons, we had to move him to a different state because of severe allergies. I could not just give him 24/7 medication. So my husband found a job in an environment when he was able to live and grow up without being constantly injected and fed those Sudafeds and whatever. So I've been commuting for 16 years. In fact, initially, I remember when we made that decision, we talked with my husband Mark, and he said, first of all, I'm going to tell you, you will either absolutely love it or you will absolutely hate it, because he knows me and I'm all, kind of a very strong, passionate person. So I loved it. And the reason I loved it for two reasons. I see a lot of international faculty here. You know what I fell in love with? Books on CD. I love crime novels. I just love them. And my English was not as it is right now, 15 years later, but in the 4-hour time, instead of listening to the music and, whatever, I would just plug in the CD, and for 4.5 hours I was educating myself on vocabulary, pronunciation, and everything that there is, improving my English communication skills. Now I still do that, but because it's fun, okay? So, and the second reason why I love it so much, because this is my only time in the week that I can have to myself, truly to myself. I'm not distracted by questions, Mom, what's for dinner? Nobody wants anything. Wait, you drive, you pay attention to the road, and then you enjoy for 4 hours your favorite crime novels. I think that is priceless. So anyway, I know it just, sounds maybe silly, but I love it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you have people, I'm a Rolla person, okay? I mean, I've lived in, this is my 31st place since 1981 on 3 different continents. But when you have people who commute, and I know your situation, I've known her forever, it does limit those people who are here, and even if you're St. Louis, 2 hours down the road apiece. All right, it limits when the department or colleagues on the committee can meet. So in that sense, because the days that you part from the campus and then you come back, or sometimes even St. Louis, well, we can't meet before 8 o'clock. That's messing with other people's schedules. In the sense, these are just, what's the word I wanted, sort of playing devil's advocate. All right, so with it, because we have some in our department that are not in Rolla, and I wanted a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, because by 8 o'clock you're done and you can start your classes. Couldn't do it, because person wouldn't come. But in the meantime, so your job to me, this is purely my own 2 cents. You teach at the Missouri University of Science and Technology, all right? So in many regards, my schedule has to change. because the person in our department lives 2 hours away, or hour and a half, however he speeds down the road, you know, whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
I do what
So you
mean.
fall into that category.
I do not. I don't feel that way.
Can I, we have this situation, I live in Rolla, but my group, my faculty group, our team, I have faculty live in St. Louis who commute. We have the same issue. We try to accommodate the faculty who commute here twice a week. And we think that doesn't work because we all have different schedule. What we did is we offer the web conference
Yes.
or allow people to dial in. And we found in many cases it's more productive and effective. We take lesser time for meetings because we don't chit chat. How's weather? How's 49 did yesterday?
Not so good.
I know. Yeah. Chili one.
It's Kansas, it doesn't matter.
No, it's Missouri.
Really?
You know, I'm going to address both of them. I think if we extrapolate the same problem to the 20th century, that would have been a big issue. But I think with the developing technology, we had what? WebEx, we had Skype, we had Zoom, God knows what else is out there. And believe me, I'm traveling quite a bit, not just between Illinois and Missouri. I go to Columbia all the time, you know, traveling for conferences. It's never been a problem. Now it's on the cell phone. Now, I make, it's pretty clear if when I'm driving on the highway, I do not do that. I mean, I cannot be distracted. Okay, so, yeah, this is a good discussion, but no, I'm sorry for kind of chiming in because I know this is emerging issue. It has been, right? And we struggle with faculty members not being able to fully engage because they have to commute. So this is one of the things that we as a campus have to think about. And I'm sure many graduate students, if you live 50 miles in Union, for example, right, that also can apply to you. I mean, 50-mile radius is, again, 1 hour drive. So let's open the floor for the questions from you guys.
Well, if yours is on the thing, then just ask.
Did anything strike a chord? Oh, statistics. I'm a big on stats. So, the questions that were left, there was, I believe, 12 of people who filled out the questions. It's not surprising that 9 questions came from assistant professors. You guys are the most, how to say, mostly concerned with how to make it right? How to create that working formula, the proportion. Now, there was 3 questions from full professors, and 1 graduate student also left the feedback. So, to give you an idea of what your peers have said, I'm going to disseminate these, and if you're one of them who answered the question, you can tell us we did not manipulate it in any way, edit it, it's just the way it is.
So I'm an assistant teaching professor in NTT, so research is not pushed on me, but at the same time, I keep feeling this pressure that I need to get something published or do something because it looks better. And like you're moving to, so what if that opportunity came up and I was stuck, not having anything? But I find it really hard to set time aside to write, so I need to know, how do I do this? Like, how do I carve out that time for the research and the writing when it's not really necessarily a priority in my calendar?
Don't do it because I regretted it.
Really?
I put out a book while I was in NTT, and it does not count towards anything.
So
Once
really
you
don't worry about it?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you come up with a nice article for, education, whatever, go ahead and publish it. It's always good. But don't worry about, as an NTT, about anything huge like a book.
Now, to add on to that, I think, though, what you can do is, if you're as an NTT for the teaching, for the education, one of the things you can do is Malcolm's conference. How do you teach? Why do you teach? Because that counts, because I know our NTT is required to do teaching stuff. You know, presentations
So
on
I'm
teaching.
presenting an FTM.
She is presenting, so come and see her.
Okay,
Yes.
well, exactly, but see, that counts.
So I do
That's
a lot of
important.
presentations.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I just
that,
still
yeah.
feel like I should do more, but no.
Well, if you
Quit-
want
quit
to, do
thinking
it.
that.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. You said it's not a priority for your job, but it sounds like it's a priority for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
You know,
that's
so
right.
if it is for you, you need to say
Yeah.
what's the value of that versus, you know, one more whatever to push your
Yeah.
teaching portfolio forward. Because, and it's almost like something valuable is listening to CDs. If it's important to you and it has a high value, try to squeeze it in if
Yeah.
there's space. If it doesn't matter to you and it does matter to your job.
But if it makes you happy, because
Yeah.
any research you do, anything you do is gonna show in your classes. Because you can go into your class going, wow, I just
Yeah, that's
discovered
true.
blah, blah. And, you know, sometimes the students will say, really, that's really interesting, or did you know? You know, they may throw in some experience they had. So they enjoy it, and they also know that you're still a student. The teaching scholar, all right, the
Right.
teaching scholar. That you understand what it means to have a deadline. You understand what it means when somebody says you didn't do endnotes, put them all into endnotes. You know what that means. All right, so all of those important things, if it makes you happy. And honestly, if it makes you happy and you're working on a Saturday morning at, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock before you take the kids to, well, but, whatever. You're doing something that's fun.
Yeah.
That doesn't really count as labor. It's not like your class, right? This is something you're enjoying. Like for me, going to the minors games, men or women's games, it's fun. But there are side benefits to it that honestly, it's nice to have them. I know tons of the alums, I know tons of the old professors, if you will, the retired professors, and all of that, and it's really nice. There's links that you can form.
Okay.
Those are great advice. By the way, speaking of CDs, I'm so addicted. So when I do my house chores, cooking and cleaning, the CD is blasting all over the house. My husband is at work, and on Fridays, when I'm not meeting on Zoom with the university committees, I really like that. I mean, it seems like, keeps me engaged. Anyway, this is a great question, but Michelle, I think panelists are correct. For us, it's really important to understand how we are going to be evaluated. Your evaluation criteria. For entities, research piece is really not something that is required, right, Joe? Right. So for assistant professors, this is actually the most important piece that will go into your evaluation and promotion to associate professor. And for you, PhD students, you understand you're all about research, right? So this is your time to really make your mark on the field.
I do want to know how many of you have a dual career spouse? 1, 2, yeah, 3,
4.
yeah. And your spouse is also a tenure track or also in academic?
At the university
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
outside?
At university?
There's 2.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something I found worked really, really well for my situations. Dual career couple coming as assistant professors for each of us. We try to, just like Joe, spend as much time with our family as we possibly could. So 2 years old and a newborn in 2 years. What we found is we try to, when they are very young, before middle school, we try to arrange our conference to be the same conference. So when we travel, we take kids. And we try to schedule our presentation differently so one can stay with kids. After middle school, we try to arrange our conference. We go to different conferences so one can always stay at home, taking children to soccer game, to band practices. And I found they give us more family time than what we could squeeze in. And in those conference trips, my children learn, and I can tell because they told the other person, my parents work very hard, and that inspired them to work as hard.
Well, maybe the audience, if you formulate the question, maybe you can share with us your specific, unique challenge, and we can have a little bit of an insight on this, because, or you can have an abstract idea of what kind of direction we need to take.
So my current challenge as a graduate student is having to balance my work as a TA and then my work as a researcher. I feel it's a bit unique because my TA position does take 12 hours at a minimum of my time during the week. So do you guys have or experience that? Because it would be nicer if these were on, adjacent days, but they spread themselves out such that, I lose focus on one to go to the other to go back to this. My weeks just keep alternating like that, so it's hard for me to kind of focus on one thing at a time.
You can certainly reach out and ask for, a different TA position or something like that, but it is hard. That is one of the things I really struggle with now, is there's so many meetings, this somebody comes in, and that one chunk of time, I need 4 hours to finish reviewing this paper and get it out, and I'm done with it. And it'll sit around for weeks, because if I looked right now at my schedule, I almost guarantee I don't have a 4-hour block this whole week.
There's also the issue that you're changing hats
Yeah.
constantly. You walk in at 8 o'clock, you're a student, at 9 o'clock, you're a teacher. And you have this whole mindset change that you have to do. And it takes some practice, you get better at it, but
And I know some people say, I want to have my weekend off, but sometimes you have to set aside 4 hours on the weekend as a chunk, even if it's just to finish up a couple of pages or whatever as you're writing your dissertation.
It's like scheduling doing your taxes only on a weekly basis. You have to get it done.
Now, one of the things that I always tell my students, and I think it works, for me it's different, I do whatever I want, whenever I want. All right, but in terms of it, what I would recommend, go to the computer, print off a calendar. They got monthly calendars, right, that has the whole month on it. Print one off. If you're employed and you were a secretary somewhere, or an accountant somewhere, you'd be working 40 hours a week, right, whatever days. Schedule in the 40 hours. But also, when you're switching from being a teacher, going back to being the researcher, going back to being a teacher, give yourself some silly activity that takes 5 minutes. Because one of the things, I freely admit it, I go to Facebook and I play Pet Rescue Saga, so I can rescue these cute little animals. Literally 5 minutes. But I'm finished teaching, and before I want to start teaching, or before I finish teaching, before I want to start grading. I'm not going to sit down, open the papers up. No, you need to change. So I'll go in there, check email, and then, okay, that's kind of work, right? And then 5 minutes, because it times you, right? It times you. It's 5 minutes to save my little creatures. And if the 5 minutes is up and I'm not done, then it doesn't get done. They don't get rescued. But if you schedule it in there, so schedule playtime in there as well. So if you enjoy doing something on the net, you enjoy going to the gym, put it in the calendar. But if you get 40 hours of work, widely defined, right? So teaching and research and writing, it's in there. Because it could be 4 to 7 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, right? And that's it. But in the meantime, on Wednesday, you were able to do whatever is there. But if we had normal jobs, air quotes, all right, if we have normal jobs, which we do not, that's why I love the first question on this list. All right, I think that's a good one. In terms of it, but I would create a calendar for yourself. And give yourself some little, call mom. Hey mom, talk for 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, okay, that's done. Then you can start writing your own stuff. And then when you switch, go back to teaching, well, then you pick up your stuff, leave, and then 2 minutes.
I'll say I do have to run. I've got another deadline.
I told you.
The clock
I told you you
almost
weren't going to
there.
stay the whole
Thank you,
time.
Burken.
But one thing that hit me recently, I was filling out an award or nomination or something that said, what are your hobbies and activities? And I remembered back to being, a PhD student, and at the bottom of my one-page resume was my hobbies and activities. And I thought back, boy, that left a long time ago. And I thought about the activities, you know, I barely do mountain biking. Now I'm starting to pick it back up again, as my boy's getting older and likes it. But you know, I don't do competitive basketball or activities, and golf is gone. And for just a moment, I was kind of sad. You know, I was like, I don't do those things anymore. I have the golf clubs in the shed, but I don't use them. You know, and at that point, like the mountain bike, I haven't been kind of that. But I thought, well, what do I do with my time? And it was really, I picked up coaching, and then I mentioned that. I mean, and I love it, and I wasn't sad at all. And it was really like reassuring that I had made that choice without really like sitting down and going, well, what am I going to cancel? But I've always maintained something in my balance that was really valuable to me.
Yeah.
And you find time to work it in. And in fact, like Diana said, which normal is not Diana. But if you're really, you know, something's valuable to you, get it on the calendar, you know, protect it. And obviously with our crazy jobs or whatever, you know, sometimes you have to do that. You know, I've missed my kids' events for certain things, and that's fine. I've missed for about 20 years, I've missed more anniversaries with my wife than I'd hit. Because when the main conference is that exact week all the time. But we understood, you know, but we made time to make that up. But you've gotta plant that value system. What is most important to you? And kind of work to protect that in some way, shape, or form.
But remember too, like what you just said, you don't golf anymore, but you coach.
Right.
So it's not like you have to have golfing and coaching. So, and as you get older, you don't want to golf or you don't want to run the marathon. You know, you do whatever it happens to be. So just what he does.
It's what, like I said, my values have changed, but I work really hard to protect that. And with that, like I said, deadline looming, phone calls coming in, I apologize for that.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Any last
Thank you.
questions or anything? Truly, it's finding that way to be successful and happy is critically important. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you very much.
Let's start at 12:15 tomorrow.
Well, let's just for fun to see what kind of hobbies or what kind of activities you enjoy. Because this is really important, right? So if you constantly work, your emotional state will be going down, right? It's work and work and work, obligation upon obligation. You have to do it, not what you want to do.